Totally forgot to put myself in the video, which ruined the whole bit I was going to do because I was going to do the wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, up you wake, up you wake, up you wake. This is Mr. Senior Love Daddy, your voice of choice, the world's only 12-hour strong man on the air, here on We Love Radio 108 FM, the last on your dial, but the first in your hearts. And that's the truth, Ruth. And it would have been better if I would have just come in and did that. What's up, everybody? Welcome to PCP Movie Night. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, a movie from 1989 that in some ways, unfortunately, still all too relevant today. Joining us, we got Jelani. What is up, my man?
Yeah, Station Brother. Yeah, what a movie you chose. Good grief. Yeah,
well, we were originally going to do this one like a year or 2 years ago, and then something happened and we shifted and we did My Bloody Valentine instead because I was like, Canada. Oh, the show will be on Valentine's Day. Let's bump Spike Lee and do My Bloody Valentine. But we're making up for it tonight. So
yeah, good times. I mean, what a movie to choose, man. That's either way. I'm glad we're doing it 2 years removed.
It's going to be even better than normal, Jelani, because making his first appearance on PCP Movie Night, not on the channel, but on PCP Movie Night, Stocky 616. What is up?
What's happening, everybody? So excited to be here. So excited that we're covering this movie. Very important film.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can't cover important films without the most important member of the panel. That's Brooks. What's up, my man?
What's up?
What's up? What's up?
Can I get a station or something?
Yeah, can we get a station?
Station.
Brooks he begrudgingly does stations. He doesn't he's not a follower.
He does not say get out there and go figure either, so it works.
He thinks that's too corny.
I say it every time.
You do. Under your breath. I hear it.
All right. And we needed to fill up the panel for tonight, so we had Stu come in. What's up, Stu?
Thanks, you guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, depressingly a still relevant film, but a great one nonetheless. So happy to be joining you guys tonight.
Absolutely. And to round out the panel, last but certainly not least, it's Manny from Nerdtastic News.
See, I knew you were going to do the Sam Jackson monologue, so I was like, which one am I going to do? There's so many great ones. I settled on Smiley's, but it's 2023. I was like, nah, it's probably not the way to open the show. Just saying.
Yeah, okay.
Just saying.
Yeah, probably not. All right, so tonight we're talking about Do the Right Thing from 1989. There's my Criterion Blu-ray I got right there. Fan of the show, friend of the channel. James Donahoe gave this to me for either Christmas or my birthday one year. So whenever someone gifts me a movie, I usually try to cover it, put it in the schedule at some point. Unfortunately, at this time, that schedule's like a year ahead already. So, if you want your movie review, just send it to me. It's how it'll just take a year and a half, 2 years. But Do the Right Thing. Wasn't thinking about it, but coincidentally, we're doing it on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, right? That wasn't planned. And also, coincidentally, we're talking about a movie that's about the hottest day of the summer in New York on what is the coldest day in Alabama right now, for sure. I don't know about where y'all are at. Yes. Well, definitely where Manny's at. I bet.
There's snow. Yeah.
Manny, you muted.
Manny, you muted or something?
Yeah, probably.
Whoa.
Now I'm loud. Sorry. No, I was legitimately negative 25 today.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, I don't feel so bad. It's only like 20 degrees here, so yeah.
I'm good.
All right. So this is what this movie's about, right? It's about a neighborhood in Brooklyn on the hottest day of the year, or possibly the preamble to what will be the hottest day of the year with the way the movie ends. And of course, it's known for being a very powerful movie because it was one of the first ones in a very real way that confronted the idea of police brutality and the killing of black men and women. And it was doing this as kind of like a reaction to some of the stuff that was going on at the time. And here we are in 2024 and the shit's still happening. So it's a movie that is, depressingly so, like you said, Stu, still relevant today, still has a very powerful message. But all of that stuff aside, this is just such a great crafted movie. Y'all know me, and some of the first films I loved when I was in high school and getting to know who the directors and writers of my movies were and what movies I liked. I love all of these day in the life of a crew or a neighborhood. Dazed and Confused, Clerks. I love shit like that. Friday. Do the Right Thing fits right in. And even though it is incredibly important, obviously Criterion thinks so. They put everything on Criterion that's important, or by Wes Anderson. So what the movie, though, is also just a really great slice of life in that moment of time that paints a picture that was very real. Not even talking about the heavier stuff towards the end, but just the people, that community, the way it worked, how they talked to each other, and all the stuff going on. It was a perfect snapshot, and it's also an incredibly funny movie. Like, a lot of times we remember it as just being this like heavy social drama. It's straight up a comedy throughout most of the movie. It just has a very powerful ending, and a powerful ending that Friday tried to do, but they did it in a more like after school special kind of way. So it didn't come off quite the same way, but it's a comedy, and it's so well written. It's incredibly shot. It is gorgeous. It is beautiful on a technical level. It is one of the greatest films of all time, without even talking about the content of its narrative. I love this film. I have been, for the last 2 weeks, as soon as I was wrapping up Police Academy, I just dove into this movie, and I consumed every single bit that's on this DVD set, watched a lot of stuff on YouTube, a lot of Spike Lee interviews. I'd love to interview Spike Lee. Seems like he's kind of an easy and a tough interview, because he's just the way he kind of comes at it. He seems super fucking fun. But I love the movie. I've been steeped in it. Jelani, Do the Right Thing. What do you think about it?
Yeah, man. I want to preamble by saying, happy MLK Day. It's a big deal. Peace and equality, and it does make sense. I mean, this was a timely movie, man. So you nailed it without thinking about it. So I really appreciate that. And second, fuck the police. Fuck the police. I'm gonna say it every time there are police involved in a movie. I hate them, and they should know that I hate them. I hate you a lot. Hopefully it's filmed. Oh, and we are, and I just want them to know. Anyway, great film. I love this movie. Spike Lee is one of the greatest directors of our generation. He was robbed of many Oscars. I think it took him a while to get there. I forgot what the movie he won it for. Darn, it slips my mind. But I'm sure somebody can find it and put it in the comments or something. But he is very influential. He puts a lot of people, a lot of his family in movies. His dad is in movies, and his sister in this movie.
Yep.
And she's in Mo Better Blues. She's in a lot of stuff.
But his dad did the score too.
Yeah. With Branford Marsalis. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, it's a movie from my childhood anyway. I saw this in the theater. This is one of those things where it was like a cultural touchstone for a lot of people. Man. We got out and talked about it, and talked about police brutality and race relations, and on the hottest day of the summer. It tells such a brilliant story, and it tells it through the eyes of Mookie. But Mookie's our everyman until we find out that he is the one that starts the riot. It's just one of those weird kind of situations where he's the one that sparks the flame. Of course, his friend is dead, but it explains so many different things and so many different emotions. I'm sorry, I'm just going off on this tangent, but Spike Lee is brilliant to put himself in this film, and brilliant to put a brilliant cast of characters together to bring the story home of how people treat each other. This is basically how we treat each other. And on the hottest day of the year, and tensions rise, and people just can't get along. Why can't we get along? And nowadays we can't get along for nothing. We are not fighting wars for the United States. We're fighting shadow wars and other stuff and other things, but we fight each other more than we fight anybody else, and it's a damn shame. And that's all I got to say about it.
Sure is, man. What's crazy is that, when this movie came out, I was a kid, so I didn't watch it when it first came out, but I discovered it later on at the video store, right? And it was one that I watched in high school a lot. I would go back and I'd find movies by Spike Lee and Quentin Tarantino and Richard Linklater. These were I was starting to know the names of some of these people, right? Aside from just, your Steven Spielberg, right? The day I found out who Joe Dante was, it changed my life. But like he did Gremlins and The Howling. Holy cow, same guy.
Yeah.
But I was watching this one later on, but so I was kind of far removed from what the reaction of this movie was. I just always knew that it was an important film and it was highly regarded. But at the time, there was a lot of people like writing articles about how it was going to incite violence, and that everybody was saying that he should like not put this movie out, not put it out in the summer, wait, don't play it in certain neighborhoods and this and that. They really like what a mass they were trying to like just rile up this like white hysteria against this movie. And it's just like, holy shit, man. Like hearing all that on the Criterion, there's a thing that's like Spike Lee's final word, and he just lets it all out, bruh. He just lets it all out. And it's great, man. It's I would highly encourage anybody to get this. I think it's on 4K as well. Taki, Do the Right Thing. What do you think?
Well, unfortunately, my parents weren't cool enough to go take me to see this in the theaters. It was playing in the theater that was next to Batman when that movie came out in '89. And it was only a 2-screen theater. So it was kind of symbolic to me. It was one of the last times I would choose comics over something urban adjacent, so to speak. It's a time capsule that shows you before hip hop goes mainstream. You know, it's very interesting that Spike Lee only used Public Enemy's Fight the Power. It's the only hip hop song in the whole soundtrack, I believe. Even though he gave props, you know, when Sam Jackson did the roll call to a lot of hip hop acts at the time. No drug use in this movie. You know, the mayor drinks some beers, but no drug use, and I really applaud that. I mean, it's way before social media, so it's just very interesting to see how things were going down in the '80s, late '80s. And how some things are still relevant today. Some fortunate and some unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing those thoughts, man. Yeah, my parents weren't cool enough either. I did go see Batman in the theater.
I went to go see that by myself, too. They weren't even cool enough for Batman.
Speaking of not cool enough for Batman, Brooks, what do you think about Do the Right Thing?
Well, I'd seen parts of this movie like a long time ago. I remember seeing like when it came on TV. I think it was on like TNT or something at some point. And I remember I'd only seen the end of this movie though, so like I always assumed it was like a drama all the way through, and it isn't. It's mostly a comedy, like you were saying, most of the movie. But it's the first Spike Lee. Well, it's the second Spike Lee movie I've ever seen. The only other one I've seen was Malcolm X, which I really love. I really love that movie. And this movie, I'm conflicted about it. Like I do like it, but like I don't know. It feels oddly paced for me in a lot of ways. And I think it's just kind of the nature of it. It's like very much a day in the life kind of story to me. It feels kind of like a merging of like Clerks and Boys in the Hood, and but I do like the ending. Like really, because when the ending happened, like I remembered, oh yeah, this is how it ends, and it was like it's like it's tragic, it's the fact, not the fact, that to me it's not the fact that violence is done. It's like it's directed in the wrong direction, like the rioters are attacking like the wrong person, because the people who are responsible just come in, they fucking do the thing, and then they leave, and then they can't fucking do anything about it. So, like, that's kind of the tragedy of this movie is that, the right thing gets done, but to the wrong people.
Well, there is the idea, though, that, I mean, Sal could have definitely de-escalated that situation, and then he could also at least express some remorse over it and not just callously said, you do what you got to do,
Korean couple.
Yeah.
How they responded.
Yeah, well, I mean, like he's not like, Sal's not perfect, but like he didn't deserve to have his store destroyed like that.
No, I actually agree with that.
Because the ones who should have been on the receiving end of that violence were the cops, and even the cops come back and like they don't attack them then either. It's like man.
Well, it just seems
that's a tragedy.
Look,
this goes
in
to
this
show
movie,
you it
it's
just hurts the
interesting because the
community.
cops send the firefighters out to fight their fight, but that's a whole nother.
Right, and use fire hoses on people.
Yeah, cops are bitch made.
That is true. They are.
All right, Stu. Speaking of bitch made, what,
Wow.
They are.
Stu,
He
what do you
won.
what do you think about Do the Right Thing, my man?
I guess I'll take that hand off. Yeah, just to echo what you guys said. To me, it was. I think the first Spike movie I ever saw in theaters was Crooklyn, and I think I went back and saw this one. But this was one that really definitely shook up my world, my perspective. I agree with you, Robbie. On the rewatch, I really enjoyed the humor and the lightheartedness, and the moments of levity throughout this film. I thought that was. That really stood out to me on the rewatch, something I had forgotten, with the past viewing. But to me, it's a classic. The colors, the cinematography, the music, the performances you have from everybody, the ensemble cast is crazy great. And like we've already talked about, it's got messages that were, he's taken clips from this and put it together after the deaths of Eric Garner and George Floyd. So it's present on so many unsettling levels still. Even though it's circa 1989, but yeah, just one of my favorites. One of the first films that really just made me look at the world in a different way. Really a landmark film for me in that way. So yeah,
absolutely, and a landmark film just in cinema history. Really, like it's the way it's shot. It's aggressively shot, which I love. Like those Dutch angles, the close-ups. Like
the back and forth with Sal and Radio Raheem. How uncomfortable some of those close-ups are.
I know, man. Absolutely. Man. I'm like, this is the nice dude from Hudson Hawk screaming cocksucker at me. That's fucking crazy. Speaking of screaming cocksucker at me on a screen, Manny, what do you think about Do the Right Thing?
You know what? It's because you didn't let me on the Ninja Turtle stream. Give context to why I was screaming cocksucker. Let's be honest here. So this film, my parents were obviously way too cool because they took me to see it, and I was like 3 years old. So I'm just saying, I didn't see this film until high school. So intro to film studies, and then film studies, and then advanced film studies. There's a playlist every February. You go through, Do the Right Thing. You watch Boys in the Hood, and depending on whether or not with the teachers feeling Mo Better Blues or Malcolm X. That is the playlist for February at my high school in California. So that was just that's the only time I ever watched this film. And strangely enough, having that mentality, I don't want this to come across wrong because I had great teachers, but having a middle-aged white woman go up to the VCR and put in Do the Right Thing because it is February and it is necessary to watch a black film in February makes you see Sal's perspective at the end just a little bit similarly. It's almost like having that experience makes you think that the reason that you had to watch this movie was because it was Black History Month. Similarly to how Sal says, "Oh no, it was bugging out that got Radio Raheem killed." It's a misplaced motivation that comes from that type of environment. So on this rewatch, being a father, being somebody who George Floyd was murdered 30 minutes from my front doorstep. That informed this watch completely different. That made this movie hit different. That made me pay attention more. Life experience, doing theater on the stage made me appreciate the story structure, the way that this film is framed like a play. Characters get introduced, they get a moment, and then it moves on. Characters are brought in for a reprise, and then it moves on. It is written very much like a play. And it made me realize and want to rewatch films like Boys in the Hood because it is very, very refreshing in 2023 to see a film that's messaging is not surface level because you have to dig for it. Spike Lee is inserting images. He's inserting dialogue. He's inserting vignettes that make you dig for the meaning It's not pandering. It's nothing like that. This is a film that is there to make you think, so it will stick with you. And it was such a great thing to be able to rewatch this again. So thank you, Robbie, for putting this on the list.
Hell yeah.
Well, let's thank Spike Lee and everybody for making it first, you know. So thanks, Spike. You know, I don't like the Knicks, but I don't mind them. So there you go. No, this movie is just such a joy to rewatch it. It still feels so fresh. It still feels vibrant. Like, and not just because of its message, but because of the tone of the film, because of the lighthearted nature of it. Like the nature where you feel the community in this movie. Like you feel like you got to hang out on that block for a day, right? And you got into everybody's lives. And these lives were made possible by some brilliant performances. Some great performances. Now, I'm going to do the typical Robbie thing and go first because I don't want anybody to steal mine. But it's Robin Harris as Sweet Dick Willie. I'm going to tell you something. Damn it. This is Kid's fucking dad from House Party, right? And he is so goddamn funny and everything. He had me dying. I watched this film multiple times. I made it through at least like 3.5 times, right? Like with commentary and just watching it 2 times in full over the last couple weeks. And like, he just cracks me up every single fucking time. No, you need to boycott that barber who done fucked up your head. You know what I'm saying? And just
if Mike Tyson has a dream about knocking me out, he better wake up and apologize.
Yeah, hell yeah, I'll tell it to him. Hell yeah. He just is. I really feel, or at least I have a hope that me, Brooks, and Jelani, because we're local and y'all are welcome to join us, but I hope that we're those dudes. Like later on in life, we're just hanging out, probably at the comic shop outside talking shit. We are those dudes.
We are those dudes.
We just don't sit down doing it, man. That's it.
We'll be whining about how Marvel still sucks.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one of my favorite bits is when what's his name? Is it ML or I can't remember his he's the abbreviated name, right?
Yeah.
And he's talking about the Koreans and how much it's a damn shame that there's no black-owned businesses. He's like, I'm tired of this shit. You know, I'm gonna go give those Koreans some more of my money. It's Miller time, god damn it. He just cracks me up. A lot of that apparently just riffing, just going off, and you can feel it. So what about you, Jelani? What's a character you want to highlight, a performance to spotlight?
Well, you did take Sweet Dick Willie, so I
just love how if you didn't know his name, he kept telling you. I love it.
He kept telling you who he was.
We all know someone like that.
Yeah, just loud and boisterous. I mean, rest in peace, Robin Harris. He did such a great job with that. But I guess I'll go to my second. I have like so many though. There's so many to choose, so it's good. I'm gonna pick Radio Raheem, Bill Dunn.
Another actor's no longer with us, right?
That's right. He passed away like 2016 or something like that, somewhere in that area. But I remember it because that kind of hurt because he was in New Jack City. He was a lot of good characters. He's a great character actor. His love and hate speech, the love-hate speech, is one of like the best speeches, and I love the way Spike Lee shoots it, the way it's shot.
Yes.
Where directly at the camera, he's like telling you. It's close up in his face, tells that story so brilliantly of why he has these. And he's using his radio, and he's a dude just trying to live his life. But the problem is he's perceived as this angry black man. And he gets this rep. And he doesn't help it any further by playing Fight the Power as loud as he possibly can on a boombox. You know, it is respect. To be honest, it is kind of respectful to go into a building and turn it down. You can't keep blasting.
That's one of the beauties of this movie is that all these characters have so much nuance. It's not simply black and white, like no pun intended, but it's not really just
it's gray.
Exactly.
Yeah, nobody and my third favorite would have been another character I'm not going to mention. But because I don't want to take it from anybody, but there's a character in this film which I completely agree with on a lot of levels, and it's somebody that people are probably not going to like, and I'm like, I completely agree with certain things.
As long as it's not Vito, I think you're fine.
Yeah, it's not Vito.
Or is it Pino?
It's Pino.
Pino.
Vito's down. Vito's down.
Yeah, Vito's down.
Pino's
if it's Vito, you're fine. Okay.
Vito, yeah, okay. But there's a character I completely agree with, and it's just if y'all hit it, I'll say why.
Gotcha.
But
Talking about the well-rounded
I
nature. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the well-rounded nature of these characters. Even in some scenes, the police don't come across so villainous. Like when they don't like go after and chase the dudes down for the fire hydrant, right? And they basically send Frank Vincent on his fucking way, right? There's like, and he's just like so pissed. I love that shit. I love it. What about you, Taki? What's a character you want to highlight?
So we're going into the third pick, and we're still going to pass up Giancarlo Esposito. And I had to Google his name because it escaped my mind. But we're going to pass him up on this third pick.
By the way,
underrated actor of all time.
This was him. The first year where I was like, "Holy shit, that's Giancarlo! That's the dude from the Boys and Mandalorian. Holy shit,
Mandalorian, The Boys.
The glasses are crazy.
Fucking Breaking Bad.
I was going to say Breaking Bad.
I watched Fresh the other week, and he
greatest TV show ever made.
A character in that movie called Esteban, and he steals the movie from Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, so, I believe it.
Nice.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna go with Jade and Tina, the mixture of the two women in Mookie's life and how they compare and contrast to each other. Where Tina's completely trapped, where Jade is the one who is enabling Mookie, probably supporting Mookie. And this the attitude that they have throughout the movie and how they're compared and contrasted. I loved, and I thought, there's a lot of talk of nepotism because Spike Lee cast his sister as his sister, but she has always done a really good job. And
she did a great job.
Did an excellent job as well. And I'm not sure what she's done after Mo Better Blues. I don't know if she just because I think Spike stopped putting her in movies. But she should have been able to get work elsewhere. She's a great actress.
Yeah. I wonder if there was something else going. I know in the commentary, because the commentary's got a few people on it. And she's one of them, and I think she mentioned she goes, "I'm an actor. Well, I act in Spike's movies." Just like doing that kind of thing. So maybe it's just But I love what you're saying about those two forces in Mookie's life because they're also both hard on him, right? Yeah. And he kind of like shirks a lot of responsibility. He's a very complex character who's not also like he's not necessarily a heroic figure in the movie or anything like that. It doesn't have that kind of a structure to it. The characters are so well rounded, and also it's Rosie Perez's first movie.
Yes,
and they met at a dance competition that Spike was hosting, and she was like yelling at him about the music or whatever because it was when what's the song from School Days? The Butt. Is that what? Yeah. So anyway.
Ain't nothing wrong if you want to do the butt all night long. Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, Brooks. What about you, man? What's a performance you want to highlight?
I like the girl with the sailor hat. Like I can't remember. I don't know what her name was.
You talking about
Ella?
But she was part of like the group of basically the younger group that would it was throughout the movie. And like I kind of like this group, like this kids group, like these younger guys who were just hanging out. It kind of reminded me of like the guys I hung out with back in high school and post high school, and like she seemed like just the one who like smarts off and like stirs the pot and causes trouble. But yeah, like I like that how this group, these kids are in the movie, like throughout it. They're in the background through most of it. They don't get a whole lot of scenes like in the limelight, but they're always there. And like, they have a big part in the end as well. Like, they're the reason that he opens the door, and like, they're the reason that everybody else comes in at the end. So yeah, like I thought it was a good performance too.
Yeah. And one of them guys was Martin Lawrence in his first film performance. So
with the list.
Yeah, he got me in my eye or something like that. What about you, Stu? What's the performance you want to highlight?
Her expressions during the riot, Ella's expressions, that's something I paid attention to like on my second watch.
Yeah, absolutely. That emotion was crazy. For me, it's gonna be Richard Edson as Vito. I love how just like really with his walk with Mookie and the backroom wrestling with John Turturro, we got the dichotomy of the character kind of fleshed out. I just thought that was really well done. And I like how kind of, Sal's two sons represent, Sal's hard decisions later on, and kind of like how his character breaks down, and the sympathy and the hard line he chooses to take. But
yeah, they kind of represent two sides of Sal, right?
exactly. It's so many characters in this are Shakespearean in nature. I feel
They are.
and the roles they play, and kind of how they move the story along. And but yeah, it's definitely Richard S. Esposito. I thought he was really soft, understated, and I just love seeing those two scenes he was in. And
I really feel like we could go 2 rounds on favorite
We really
cast members,
could.
because we haven't
could
even
get to
hit
the
some of the
mayor,
biggest ones.
No,
yet.
we haven't. Like I was,
Crazy.
when I was making my list, it's so crazy how many people came through on
So
this
many
film.
great.
Mhm.
Everybody in the tiniest
Every
roles to the
character.
largest roles, right?
Really, yeah.
All right, Manny, what you got?
Boom. There's a lot to choose from. I'm gonna go with kind of like Taki. I'm gonna do a dual, kind of two sides of the same coin. I'm gonna go with DeMare and Mother Sister as my
Yeah.
two favorite characters
Yeah.
because of what they represent, and because as a first generation, my father was born on Guam, and his parents, when everyone came here, nobody spoke English. I have seen DeMare and I have seen Mother Sister reflected in their own immigrant journey, because I have seen members of my family that have seen some shit and have been the object of racism, being fresh off the boat. And I've seen them try to be cordial, try to capitulate, similar to the mayor. He wants to be a peacemaker, but he also he's seen some shit, and it's gotten him almost shell-shocked. He's almost to a point where he's that black guy that old white guys wish all black guys were. The kind that will say, excuse me, and hold the door. And he's the fucking, who's that damn cook that with the giant eyes and the blonde hair, Paula Dean. He's a Paula Dean. He's Paula Dean's ideal. Mother Sister, on the other hand, is cold. She's callous. And I've seen that.
Self-righteous.
I've seen that. And so those two characters, even as someone who can't speak to, even as the only black man on the panel, but as someone who can't speak to the black experience, I can say that as I won't use the word that we use to describe ourselves amongst, but as a Chamorro, I've seen that shit, and I've grown up with that, and I understand that, and I see when the young group of kids shows up and they're doing what that group does, which is kind of be an inner dialogue, an inner monologue for all the characters. They show up and they talk shit, and they instigate, and they stir up feelings and emotions. That's their role in this film. I've been that kid. I've been that one that's like, no, I'm not going to be like you. All right. I speak proper English. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to make something of myself, and I'm going to show people what a Chamorro can do. But I've also kind of become DeMare. I've also kind of understood that my day as an electrician will go easier if I let the drywallers make a taco joke, or I let the drywallers talk about me taking a siesta on lunch break. I have become DeMare. So those are two characters that really speak to me as a minority in 2023 in a predominantly white state. And again, I love all my white friends and family. That's not what this is about. But
Even the cannibals.
Even the cannibals, especially the cannibals. All right. But yeah, sorry.
Because it's only white people that are cannibals, man.
I had this discussion recently where I was like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. You're right. There's some stereotypes out there, but do you really want to point out stereotypes amongst the minorities? Because y'all got serial killing on lock in the white community.
Yeah.
I don't really.
That's what we do. That's what we do.
I mean, I don't want.
We're good at that.
You want to talk about some shit? But anyway, regardless, my point is, DeMare, Mother Sister, great characters.
Yeah,
And
they
DeMare
are.
is the hero of this movie.
Absolutely. And
They
just
kinda
the
He
represent
saves
the
the
old
little
guard.
boy. He saves
They're like the ones who've been through
Danny
the-
Aiello. Sal.
Mm-hmm.
He saves mother's sister.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
historical follow-up, Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee were two of like the OG civil
Yeah.
rights activist
Yeah.
actors.
Yep.
And like to see them as kind of like these shell-shocked shepherds of the neighborhood was pretty crazy. That was a crazy way to put them in the
It's a
film.
great piece of casting. Great choices
Yeah.
there.
Absolutely.
Also, Giancarlo Esposito, who we had mentioned is bugging out, is so good, and he kind of almost steals the show in a lot of
Really
his
does.
scenes.
Yeah, it does.
And Samuel L.
He's
Jackson
the character.
is also great as kind of like the narrator of the film, right? He's kind
Yeah.
of like the storyteller in a way, and I really love that. So let's talk about the style and the structure of this film. This film oozes style. So it takes place on the hottest day of the year. The original title of this film was Heat Wave, and I think Do the Right Thing suits it better because it makes like that one bit in the beginning when the mayor tells Mookie, always do the right thing. It just kind of makes it really pop throughout. And it caused a lot of discussion, dialogue, and questions about this movie, right? A lot of discussion. And that's what we're doing here today. Like, what, almost 35 years later or something like that? So because it's supposed to be the hottest day of the year, Ernest Dickerson, right? Or is it Dickinson? I think it's Dickerson.
Dickerson.
He's the cinematographer of this film. He's brilliant. By the way, he's the dude who directed Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight, if you didn't know. But I love that damn movie. Billy Zane acting crazy and shit.
Yeah.
But Ernest Dickerson did such a phenomenal job of filming it in a way where everything looks like blown out and like overexposed, and it's super hot. The set design, the colors, everything's like red, yellow, orange. There's very little trees seen in the movie. There's very little sky that's shown in the movie that just doesn't look like boom. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a couple of like Dutch angle stuff. That's the other thing, the Dutch angles and using those close-ups. That's Spike's style. That's his style, all working together. The entire crew of this movie, and for its time, it was considered shoestring budget. It was made for like what, like I think $6.5 million or something like that. But like, it's amazing what they were able to do. The production design, the costumes, everything in this movie is so solid. The style oozes. It's vibrant. It's beautiful. It is mesmerizing to watch visually. And then the story. I really appreciate the structure because it doesn't have your typical like 3-act narrative where Mookie comes in and grows. And that was a lot of the criticism at the time, right? They were like, it doesn't seem real because, like Taki alluded to, there's no drugs in the movie. And every movie about like a black community has to have drugs. But that's not what the movie's supposed to be about. The movie's about something else, right? And it's portraying things in a realistic way. And it is that moment to moment, day to day. But everything is in service to the next scenes, and everything that's started and planned and plotted in the beginning comes to fruition at the end of this movie. It's incredibly brilliantly structured, in my opinion. I love it. It never feels slow. It always just moves at a breakneck pace, and I always want to linger longer in the scenes with those characters. When Radio Rockin shows up and has his standoff, his boombox off with the crew that are out there drinking beers, that shit's hilarious. I want more of that kind of stuff from this movie, right? Like, I would love it if this movie was longer. Like, I get it. 2.5 hour cut of this movie, I think could still work. What about you, Jelani? What do you think about the style and structure of Do the Right Thing?
Yeah, I agree with all of that, man. It's basically a well-paced film. It tells its vignette stories perfectly. Like Manny said, it's structured like a play, and it does like give you a highlight of the character that we're about to enjoy. Yeah, you're right as well, Robbie. That they should stay and linger. We should see a little bit more like this slice of life from these people, but you got to keep moving on because it has to get to that climax. You have to understand that this neighborhood is boiling up. And I like the scene where they're just doing racial slurs to each other. Everybody has a racial slur for everybody that's in there. Tell them how you really feel and say what you have to say. I love this because it confronts race. It confronts so many different things about just how we deal with each other in general. And it gives actual thought to that. So it's shot that way. I like how it's in your face, for most of this film. I don't know. I love how the transitions from day to night for this. Like it's a scorching day, but as the day progresses and as the sun sets, I don't know, the way it's shot is just you know it's about to be nighttime. The scene where Mookie is with Rosie Perez and they do the ice thing, and it's like right before the sun sets, and the way it's shot. Oh yeah.
There's that scene with the mayor, right, where he's talking. You see the street light come on, and like that's the only period in the film where there's like blue that's used, and it's kind of like symbolizing the calm before the storm that's about to happen. And then they don't use any more blue light, and they're just doing like harsh street lights, right? They're doing that kind of thing, and it just really helps add up to that boiling over like you were talking about.
Yeah, that color, that color works well. And you were saying before about the reds and the yellows and how bright and vibrant it is on the hottest day of the year. It does come out. It comes out in the clothing that everyone's wearing. It comes out in a lot of different scenes where you're just like, wow, it's a very upbeat movie. Even the poster is bright. So it's a bright. They're trying to tell a bright story with a dark undertone, and you're right. It's layered. This is so layered. It's a comedy drama, and it's told that way excellently in the form of a stage play, like you said, me and that's what I think of this. It is done really well.
Hell yeah!
I mean, it's very well paced.
Speaking of well paced, I hear great things, Taki. What do you think about the style and structure of this film?
This is like Spike Lee's greatest movie. I think it's even better than Malcolm. And I think it's because it was, it was, he wrote it for himself, and he put everything into this movie. And it's a combination of like hard work and everything, just like this turning out perfect. Even if you didn't think it was going to, even if you didn't think it was perfect at the time, it still was perfect. But I love the way that they interject Smiley throughout the movie. And I love the way that the neighborhoods are alive. If you look, like the Korean stores right across the street from Sal's Pizzeria, and if you watch, you'll see the couple, they're fighting with each other throughout the movie. If you watch in the window across the street, the block is alive, and there are a little bit of stories that are still going on that it never made it to the main screen. Like Robbie said, you could have expanded this another 30 minutes and just give us street scenes. Like after Radio Raheem has a standoff with the crew, and then the little boy runs up and he gives Radio Raheem a high five, and then the crew comes out and like, come back here. So I love it. There's a lot of like when you watch this movie like the third or fourth time, there's a lot of stuff that you start catching, a lot of detail.
There's that scene when Sal is talking to Pino, and the camera's like pushing in, and he eventually like runs out there because Smiley's like at the window. And they said that like John Turturro wasn't supposed to do that in the script, but he ran out there, just starts doing his thing. Meanwhile, the three dudes they're out there on the corner off camera, and you can hear Sweet Dick Willie like chiming in, right? Like, and it's like they were in, like you said, the neighborhood is alive. In fact, that's one of the best characters in the film is the neighborhood itself, Bed-Stuy, right? All right, Brooks, what about you? What do you think about the style and structure of this film?
This movie's good. It's not as good as Malcolm X, though. That's like I draw the line there, but it is like, and like there are like certain things in it that kind of remind me of Malcolm. It's like the scene where everybody like breaks the fourth wall and starts talking to the screen. Reminded me of like the end of Malcolm X, where everybody like says like I am Malcolm X. So like and like it's an interesting choice to like not a lot of filmmakers do that. We'll just have a character like basically soliloquy to you like they're in a fucking Shakespeare play or something. But it's like I like this movie. I like the characters and everything, but like the way like how it bounces from character to character like confuses me on like how much time passes throughout the movie. So it's not important really.
A day passes, Brooks. It's easy.
Like all this stuff happens in one day.
Yeah.
All I suppose, but it feels like a week or something to me. Like, you know, it feels like
It's a
more
day.
time has passed than a day.
Well, 2
But,
days. I mean, the
everybody's
end of the
wearing,
movie
like,
is covering
kind
the
of the
morning
same
of the
Yeah,
second
yeah.
day.
From
Yeah.
morning to morning,
Yeah.
a 24
Yeah.
hours period, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have 24 hours though.
Yeah.
So your love,
Yeah.
love daddy's whole 24-hour shift.
Yeah.
Even though at the beginning he says 12 hours.
12 hours, yeah. But he never goes home.
He lives there, man. It's
Yeah.
not even a real radio station. He just figured out a way probably to, like, I don't know. I would love that, man. I love the idea too of the radio station just right there on the block, right?
Yeah,
And he's just
at the end of the line.
talking to him, and he's
Watching
just
it,
like,
yeah.
Mookie, bring me my goddamn chicken parm, please. I'm dying over here. Stu, what do you think about the style and structure of the film?
Oh man, just from the jump, it's kind of like a unapologetic statement of style, just with Rosie dancing to Public Enemy, which I didn't know this. I don't know if y'all did either. The Public Enemy wrote Fight the Power after the fact. They saw a test screening of this,
Yeah.
and then went into the studio and wrote Fight the Power for it, which I thought was fucking insane. And
Yeah, Spike Lee said
great-
that Chuck D came to him with another song, and he goes, "This ain't the song." And so then they went back, and he was like, "Well, we
watched
need to
the
see
movie.
some of the movie then." So they showed him like a rough cut. Yeah,
Yeah, that's so
iconic
cool.
movie. I mean, iconic song
absolutely.
too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. But yeah, just to have that messaging like up front and center from the jump was awesome. Like you guys said about the cinematography, I love those wide shots of Mookie walking through the neighborhood and how you were just fully immersed in it. Like you were talking, Robbie, with the Dutch angles, and with Sal, Radio Raheem, the shot in the diner. There were so many shots. I love the shot too, where the police, the what a waste shot, with the police and the Sweet Dick Willie and the old heads, just like the back and forth of that, how they're riding slow. There was,
Yeah.
I completely
That's
agree
well
with
shot.
with what all you guys said. Like the production team was all on the same page. That was clear to see. The aesthetic was unified. The colors were crazy. But yeah, I heard that Dickerson even at one point used a sterno flame to try to imitate the heat wave, and would put it like under the camera, like when it was rolling, to try
You
to.
can see it when you see the three dudes on the corner, and it's like you see the heat wave effect coming up. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's insane. So like that type of level of attention to detail and like you guys said, from wardrobe to set design to production, it was just an immaculate work of art, I thought. So
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Manny? What do you think?
Boom. I mean, you guys hit the nail on the head with just about everything. I mean, for me, I'm always a fan of camera movement, seeing why the camera moves in certain ways. So for this one, I love the fact that when we get those character moments, for example, we'll use Radio Raheem's introduction, when the conversation starts with just a regular 2-shot, you know what I mean? And then it goes in, and then it's just handheld, and it feels almost music video-esque, right? And they do that a lot, where you move in and it's very personal. That character takes up the entire screen. Radio Raheem's probably the most, in terms of the way that character is shot, is the most deliberate. He's always shot upward to make him appear larger than life, to make him bigger. The only time he's not is in close-ups and Dutch angles, which again is disorienting, right?
And imposing, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And but
Big
there's
scary black man.
one time in the film where he is shot low.
It's when he's talking to Bugging Out, right?
That's just a regular 2-shot. They do that a few times. I just mean the only time where he's shot from a low shot specifically is when he dies and his feet shake. And that visual is so stunning. The idea that this is a character for the better part of, I don't know what his screen time is, I'm going to say probably 30 minutes, has been made to be larger than life. And we only see him humanized in that one fucking shot. And it's masterful. It's deliberate. I love deliberate cameras. I mean, as much as a static shot with mise en place and expert framing, like we saw in The Godfather, can be such a compelling image. This feels in the moment in a way that The Godfather doesn't. And this is just again just a completely different style, but on the same level of skill. So
Yeah, absolutely, man. Holy
Mhm.
cow. All
Yeah.
right, man, you're killing it tonight, Manny. What's
Yeah.
going on, man? You're making
I was
me-
nervous. You can. I'll break
Wow.
kayfabe. I texted Robbie. I was like, "This film's important. If there are people that are not just like one joke guys," and then I was like, "Do I make a smiley joke at the beginning?" And then Billy's like, Don't shill bad comics." So I was like, all right, how am I going to work a Ray Skywalker and a Maria Castle joke in tonight? And I was like, fuck it. Nope. This movie's too important. It's too important for me to talk about how important it was for Maria Castle to take ownership of her life and to confront Frank on his bullshit and how that builds on the character of Frank Castle, giving us a better Punisher, Billy. I'm not going to go there tonight because this is an
Preach.
important film. This is an important film.
Talk to him. Talk
All
to
right?
him now.
The idea that Ray Skywalker gets to be a Skywalker because guess what? those of us outside of the blonde white persuasion want to know that we can also be a hero.
Damn,
All
nice.
right.
All right. All right.
So I'm not going to go there, Billy. Not
Facts.
tonight. Not tonight.
Not
We
tonight.
can be
Not tonight.
heroes. Just
Manny
one
did
day.
though. So he did reach out and request like, "Hey man, if you need somebody better," and I was like, "No, dude, you're screwed, bro. It's you. It's you, man. It's only you." All right, let's talk about the music in the film. The music is awesome. So the score is composed by Bill Lee, Spike's dad, and it's kind of got that nice like, it's got a really nice kind of like smooth vibe to it that I really really like. But the thing that stands out the most to me and to most other people is Public Enemy. You know, Elvis was a hero to most, but he didn't mean shit to me. Like, it's just been in my head all the last couple of weeks, man. I've been diving back in, listening to Public Enemy, listening to hip hop from that era, and just missing it, man. I don't want to be those old guys on the side of the street talking shit about the younger generation, but we are now, guys. We are. Just call me Sweet Dick Robbie.
Not me.
But
I'm still cool.
They don't make them
Nah,
like they used to,
you're
man.
still right.
No. Younger
Jelani, what do you
generation.
think? Jelani, what do you think about the music?
You're right. They don't make music like they used to. Our music now is trash. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, the soundtrack. Is just Fight the Power. It seems like it makes a lot of sense that, of course, we've been talking about it this whole time, but it's the theme song for this movie. It is basically how these tensions will rise, and it has to be played as loud as possible in every possible aspect of this movie because it tells that story. It may as well be a character in this movie along with Radio Raheem. The actual score is fantastic too. It just does really well, and it's the Spike Lee's like modus operandi to have that. He puts that in everything.
It's
So,
classic, man. He's a classic
is.
film fan, dude. He loves
Yeah.
like there's a lot like the whole Radio Raheem speech of love and hate is taken
Mhm.
from the Robert Mitchum film. What is it? Night of the Hunter?
Night
Which
of Hunter.
I've never seen
Yeah.
it. Now I got to see it.
I've heard of it, but yeah, that's where that speech came from. Similarly, it's the same speech, but it's a good speech to have, and it's backed up well when he tells it. But yeah, the music is I can't say much more about it. It's awesome. It's absolutely great.
Hell
It
yeah.
is.
What about you, Taki? What do you think about the music?
Elvis was simple and plain. Motherfuck him and John Wayne.
That's right.
I
Fuck
agree
John Wayne
with John
too.
Wayne.
I forgot all about that fucker. Fuck that guy too. Fuck him in the face with a big rubber dildo. There I
So
said.
there are no hit songs in this movie. Oh, by the way,
Mhm.
Bill Lee does the score, Branford Marsalis, and
Mhm.
his, I don't know, his trio, quartet, whatever group he was working with at the time, they were the actual performers. No hit songs except for that. I think they had a Bob Marley song that might have been a hit. But you never.
Oh yeah, the Bob
song,
Marley
it's-
song. That was
Yeah.
good in there, man.
Yeah, but it's done to perfection. I mean, the songs go in and out. You got Senior Love Daddy who's playing. You know, he's our DJ and he's mixing it up. So yeah, I don't know if I would buy the soundtrack. I would just get Fear of a Black Planet.
There you go.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would do that.
yeah. Oh yeah, I've listened to that album hundreds of times. So
Only hundreds. Come on, man.
only
Only-
thousands of
You
times.
guys step it up.
Do better.
What'd you think about the music in the film, Brooks?
I like it. You know, it's like it's very meshes well with the movie. You know, it feels like, you know, a part of the movie, like, you know, like it feels like something that you would be hearing, you know, just walking through the neighborhood. And, you know, of course, Fight the Power is a great song as well. You know, I certainly have no qualms with that song or the message within. So yeah, like a good soundtrack, I think.
Hell yeah.
Above average.
Yeah, above average. Nice. What about you, Stu?
Yeah, I mean, you guys have said it all. It's awesome. I love, you know, Billy and Branford Marcellus, and of course, Fight the Power. I love how Fight the Power is such a character at the end, like everybody's face at Sal's when Bugging Out, Smiley, and Raheem show up at the door, and you know that song's introduced before they are. I just love that look on their face. But yeah, I think just the perfect use of music in a movie to me.
Manny, what do you think?
I never noticed the music. I mean, I noticed the soundtrack stuff. Fight the Power is a good track. There's a few like jazz notes that hit, especially like when the cops are driving by Slick Dick Robbie and ML in them. That there's like these jazzy notes that they work. They definitely they hold your attention in line with the visuals, which I think is interesting because a lot of times I find music either invisible or distracting. I do feel like a lot of, especially those kind of jazzier riffs, enhance the visual, which is saying something. Because normally me and Verno, we ain't paying no attention.
All right. The theme. If you can pull one out of it, what is this movie saying to you, Jelani? Kick us off.
It's the easiest, the most simple one. Do the right thing. And when the mayor says it to Mookie, like we said before, and it rings true. You have to do the right thing at certain times. And sometimes the right thing may not look like it's the right thing. Because the police do the wrong thing, like immediately. You know, they don't handle the situation that's boiling over as a fight very well. They choke out a man, pick him up off of his feet to where he's shaking in front of an entire crowd. They basically murder a man in front of an entire thing, and they're going to get away with it. And the movie itself is dedicated to like many people that died from police brutality. It's just one of those things that is just glossed over. It goes to the theme for me of course doing the right thing, but also how police brutality has been going on for so long. It is such an ingrained thing that is in our society. Like we were talking about Tackleberry, talking about last week, using excessive force. They use excessive force all the time. It's just one of those just awful things of life that we're just used to. And it hasn't changed. It may never change because it's just how tension can rise in everyone, but how the police are supposed to be there to protect and serve, and they do none of those things. And it kind of sucks in a lot of different ways because, you know, if you're there to help, if you're actually there to help, you just de-escalate situations. You don't put people in chokeholds. You know, you don't choke them out to death and then pull them away. It doesn't make sense to me. One more thing I wanted to say. I agree with Bugging Out. I think if you are in, and I also agree with Sal, actually, to be honest. I just want to throw this in here real quick. I believe Bugging Out was right as to have something black in the community on the wall, because if you live in this community and it's mostly black, and these are the people you've been serving for all this time, if you don't have people of color or something on the wall, at least one to show at least solidarity in the area, you can do that. Sal, I think I think you should do that. That's just good for the community. That's good for your business to have things in the community. And Sal thought he was doing the right thing by just playing it straight, going in there, but it turned it his downfall. It was his downfall. But Bugging Out on his side, I agree with him for Sal, I agree with him in some ways, because I agree with the fact that he was just a business owner in this area. He knows the people. He's there. He is in the community. He's doing what he wants to do, but then there are people in the community that bring out his hatred, that bring out his anger. But it was just, in a way, it was kind of justified. People are coming in after the store hours. They're being disruptive. He's blasting music as loud as he can, and Bugging Out is yelling at him as well. It's Smiley's in the background. It's too much all at once on the hottest day of the summer, where tensions are already at a peak. And he goes off. He says the N-word. He does what he does, and it's not, I kind of feel bad for him in certain ways. And not the way he handled it. I don't think the way he handled it was the best way. There are ways to de-escalate situations. I've been doing it for years, and it's not something that it's an art, to be honest, to de-escalate, to talk people down from the ledge. And they were there, and I feel bad for Sal, because in some ways he wanted his community, or he wanted to be in this community because he built it here 25 years.
Yeah.
And
he always talks about feeding the kids and watching them grow up and all that.
Yeah, he fed these kids.
Grew up on my food.
That's right. And he believes in it. So he's there for that reason. And Pino's like telling him, look, dude, we can just go back to Bentonhurst and make our own another pizzeria. It's like, there are too many in Bentonhurst. There are too many out there. I want to do it in this community. I grew up here. They were raised me, all these things. So he wants to be there. It's just, he also has this underlying thing that comes out, which makes us all human. It's all human. So I agree with both sides of the coin. I kind of feel bad for Bugging Out for certain reasons, and I feel kind of bad for Sal. And it's not to put that in there, but these are my thoughts, my scattered thoughts of this. Because as we were talking, I had to think about these how gray these characters are.
Yeah.
And those were the two main kind of forces where, other than Pino, but Pino doesn't really have an exploding point. There's not an exploding point for Pino. It's more so for Sal.
Yeah.
And
the movie leads you into thinking that Pino's going to be the cause of whatever conflict is going to happen.
Whatever happens.
It's actually brilliant that it's Sal, because like Bugging Out, as right as some of those ideas are, and like this building's, your business is supported by this community. Can we have just some representation on this wall, right? But at the same time, you get from the scene with Spike's sister, where she kind of leads us to believe that he kind of like always is trying to like start shit. You know what I'm saying? He's always like, and not in a constructive way, right?
Right.
Like basically maybe just like a preacher with no game. Well, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like not walking the walk or something like that.
Well, no one's following him until he gets Raheem.
Yeah.
And Raheem's mad because he got, because he had an altercation with Sal. Just because Sal made him turn his music off. But that's it.
Sal, as nice as they make him seem, does have this idea that he's kind of better than them because I built this. And when he breaks down, that's when it starts coming up, because when those tensions rise, it's hard to act civil. And then all of it erupts at that point, And not saying that, and that's the nuance of the character. And Sal has some definite racist ideas.
Yeah.
And they may be embedded. He may not be consciously aware of them, but a lot of white America, we have those things ingrained into us, and a lot of us don't even realize it until.
But it's how you're raised. It's the people you're around. It's even I dare say the church you go to, because churches are segregated still in the South. There's still a black church and a white church.
Yep.
It's the way it is, and it's how you're taught. over time, and it's just it goes out into different places, man. It's wild. It's what you believe is whatever. And I was raised to accept everyone. You have to love everyone, but at the same time you got to be worried, because everybody not your friend.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you're also raised to do that, and make sure that you film a cop every time he comes up to your face, because you never know. That you're taught that. Or make sure you have enough money for bail money. You have to have you have to have a lawyer or something. We're taught this. You have to learn how to handle the police when they come up to you, because they act differently to white people than they do to black people. They've been doing it for years. Of course, you know that. But I've had several instances where I'm just like, where it's not even worth me getting a ticket, and they give you a ticket. I've had black cops, I've had white cops, and black cops, although they're both the same coin, black cops give you less tickets because they understand. It's weird, but I still hate them. Sorry, I'm done.
Thank you for sharing that, Jelani. Taki,
You're welcome.
what's this movie speaking to you?
Well, before we get into what it's speaking to me, this is America. Anybody can be racist. I'm talking about one of the commenters who's no longer maybe in the chat anymore, but anybody can be racist. I would argue that it might not be appropriate to call them a racist, since you need to kind of have power in order to enforce a system of racism. But most people are prejudiced. But when you are, there are consequences, and you have to be able to face the consequences. And, Spike talked a lot about, in this movie, love and hate. And Sal did not own up to his hate. Sal was the one who initiated the violence that spiraled out of control.
Yep.
Ended up in his whole shop being destroyed. He's the one who took the bat to Radio Raheem's boombox.
Yep.
And he never owned up to it. Even all the way the next morning.
He pulled the bat out when Bugging Out came out the first time.
Yeah, remember? And John Turturro had to take it away from him.
Well,
he did.
But he was the only one behind the counter at that point. So there was nobody to take the bat away from him. He couldn't control his own emotions. He let the hate get the best of him. And he lost what he loved. So in that case, Radio anyway, I don't want to go too far away with it, but that's, it's love and hate. And one more thing, because we didn't really touch on, but Malcolm, Martin. I mean, okay, I'm sorry, guys. I mean, I don't feel like I'm making fun of anybody here, but this is Malcolm X's insertion back into pop culture. And a lot of times we like to say Martin was peace and Malcolm was violent. Malcolm was self-defense. I just thought that it was important that we mention something about that, especially being it's Martin Luther King's actual birthday, not only Martin Luther King Day, but his actual birthday. I don't know how old he would have been, but I thought it was important to mention that as well. And leadership. I think there was a lot of leadership in this movie, and I really liked, the mayor's character, like Manny talked about. So,
yeah, hell yeah, absolutely. What about you, Brooks? What's this movie speaking to you?
Well, I mentioned before, it's about fighting the power, but also knowing, when you fight the power, you should target the right people. The power, the whole tragedy of the end. What happens between Sal and the community, and his place getting around is that. Sal isn't the power, and they're not fighting the power. They're just fighting. They're just destroying something. They're destroying a part of their community, and tomorrow they won't feel better. It won't have changed anything. Nothing will be better. The same problems will keep going, and fighting the power isn't just about riots and all that kind of stuff. It's day-to-day stuff. Raheem, a lot of people take him wrong and see him as being aggressive and stuff, but he does be aggressive sometimes. When he goes in to buy the batteries, and he's just being a fucking asshole to these clerks. It's like, stop being such a dick, dude. Like, what is the point of that? And it's like the whole conflict between Sal and the other guy too. Like, his was like, is this really a battle that's worth culminating in this this big disaster? Like, I mean, I see like both sides have their points, but this the ending was not like it's like the power is so insulated and protected from us that we can never even dream of possibly affecting it or touching it. And so when something tragic happens and we want to fight the power, we end up just lashing out at whatever's there, whatever we can use as a substitute for the power. So that it's like hitting a punching bag. It's like just something to make you feel better, to release your tension, and something to take your anger out on. And it doesn't do anything. And I think the main thing about this, and this is the thing that Malcolm X was very he learned later in his life, that you can't just be the angry guy. You can't just be the guy, the pro-violence guy. Like, you have to have more. You have to have a focus. You have to be willing to point out who we need to fight, not just that we need to fight. And I think that's a big message in this movie.
This movie does a great job of portraying the real nuance between the philosophies of both King and Malcolm X, right? Mm-hmm. And they end with the two quotes very specifically. And Spike Lee says Malcolm's is last, very specifically. And then it wasn't much longer after this where he did do Malcolm X, which should have slayed the Oscars that year.
Yep.
And Tom Hanks says, Tom Hanks, you're cool and all that stuff, but Denzel killed it.
Carlo Esposito, Tom Hanks.
Yeah, no, you're not. And it's the
good,
biggest tragedy to me in cinema and the Academy Awards, or one of them for me, is that Denzel finally wins his best actor, not for Malcolm X, but for Training Day, which, I mean, I like Training Day, but I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah,
Malcolm X is better.
He was robbed.
All right, Stu, what about you? What do you think? What's this movie saying?
First of all, if we're talking about Oscar tragedies, this movie lost out to Driving Miss Daisy. If you're talking about come on, man. That's just crazy. But what I echo what all you guys have said. Brooks, to what you were saying, it is kind of deflating how the police roll in, kill Raheem, roll out, and then another squadron of cars rolls in. The fire department rolls in. They turn the hoses on them. We're right back to the 1950s, 1960s. It's just
in New York.
And I love how we get the morning after. It doesn't end with just the crazy. We have to watch these people try to pick up the pieces after. I thought that was just a brilliant touch at the end of the movie, where he could have stopped it with Smiley pinning the picture of the wall. That would have been a cool stopping place. But I love how we had to see the morning after. I love that convo with Sal. I thought that was a final great punctuation to each of those characters.
He would go back to get his money after he threw a trash can.
And it breaks it up.
It
breaks it up with a little bit of comedy there too. When he throws the money, and then he's like, absolutely. "You take it. No, you take it. No, you take it." You're still using comedy, and then having Ozzy and Ruby standing, surviving, seeing it yet again, right? When he's like, "I hope the neighborhood's still standing," she goes, "We're still standing."
The roses are inside our house.
Good, yeah, exactly.
And it's crazy. Just I had to look up what they were chanting when Sal's was burning down. They were chanting Howard Beach, which was a reference to Michael Griffith, who was a black guy who got chased out of a pizza shop, ran into traffic, and got hit and killed by a car. And it really it's just sad and fucking devastating that, the only thing that really has changed is the names that we're honoring at the end of this movie. Eric Garner and George Floyd. It's really just an update. And I don't know. So it's just, and it just sat watching those final quotes scroll down. I just love how it just sat with me, and it still felt like the first time I watched it. It was just that first rewatch was just such a great feeling, man. It's just such a powerful film.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Manny? What are you thinking?
There's so much that we could talk about in terms of theming. I think again, I was here when Minneapolis burned. You know what I mean? Libertarians, we were out taking video and trying to expose some of the systematic stuff, whatever. But the Derek Chauvin was not a good person. Derek Chauvin was known not to be a good person. Derek Chauvin
Got his ass
is
whooped.
Gary Long. Gary
Yeah.
Long in this film is the only cop who's overly aggressive. Yes, they didn't pursue the kids for spraying that guy's car, but he's the one. If this fucking thing opens up again, you're gonna answer to me. And then he's the one when they're saying, Gary, let him go. You're killing him. And he goes, no, he's fine. It is striking how nothing has changed. I'm not talking about fucking life imitating art, art imitating life. I'm talking about fucking stark reality. This shit is real. And it
Very.
hasn't changed. And are there good law enforcement agencies out there? I don't know. I believe there are good people, and like the quote at the end of this film, there are bad people, and unfortunately, the bad people have the fucking power. It is difficult to vilify an entire monolith, right? And I understand the want not to say across the fucking diaspora of law enforcement that they're not all bad. I get that. I understand that. But by that same fucking brush, let us not paint every community. Let us not paint all of Minneapolis. Let us not paint fucking every fucking Korean store owner as fresh off the boat, doesn't speak English. It's a damn shame. Let us not paint every other group in that same fucking monolith, right?
You can't. They're people.
Exactly. So
Except for cops. They're
so
not.
so this film is difficult to grapple with. I've heard Spike Lee say that only white people ever ask if Mookie did the right thing. We need to understand where everybody is coming from. That scene where everybody is shouting racial slurs at the camera shows that, like Taki said, we all have implicit biases. We all have prejudices. That doesn't change. I'm not going to lie here. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that millennial Manuel Mendiola does not oftentimes prefer the company of other brown people. Like, I'm not going to pretend that's not the fucking truth, right? So I do have a bias. I do have a prejudice. The problem is, how do I grapple with that? When push comes to shove and I'm confronted with a situation that forces me to look at those implicit biases, how do I fucking react? This film gets you to a place where you can think about how you're going to react. It gets you to a place where you can address your own issues and know that you aren't going to arrive, attain, or make perfect. But damn it, you're going to try. You're going to try. And it doesn't do you any good to be like bugging out and hold to your guns when at the end of the day you can't back it up. You can't see the forest for the trees sometimes. I don't want to get off topic, and I know I'm going to start rambling here, so I'm going to shut up. But that's the truth of what this film speaks to me. As a biracial child who grew up in a predominantly Latin community, who now lives in a predominantly white community with a police record that does not bode well for people of my complexion. This is an important fucking film. It's important for me as a brown skinned guy looking at white law enforcement and determining whether or not my implicit bias is going to turn me into fucking the wrong person, going to make my racism come out. And it's important to the white viewer who looks at theirs. It's important to the Korean viewer. It's important to all of us. And I just got to shut up because I'm going to start rambling. But yeah, that's what this film speaks to me anyway.
Damn.
And you use the government name.
How do I follow all of this stuff? Killing it, guys. All right. I agree with everything that everybody said here. And I could do the typical Robbie thing and thread it all together and try to bring it to a close. But no, because there is no closure on the topics and the themes that are this movie is invested in telling us, and getting, not just telling us, because this movie shows and makes you feel, right? You feel those tensions, right? So it is about police brutality against black men and black women, but against black men, like overwhelmingly so, right? That's why I think there's even the scene where Sal's like kind of sweet on Mookie's sister, right? But it's more in like this, it's in a weird kind of fucking way that kind of makes you think of like, I don't know, think of Django Unchained, if you know where I'm going, right? So it's just a little odd, but like, it's about the racism in the systemic racism that's a part of, you know, city governments and at large, you know, but it's about that stuff. It's about a community. It's about a community filled with people who are trying to do the right thing. Maybe it doesn't always work out that way. And yeah, I saw the same thing. Spike Lee says that all the time. He said it in this Criterion thing in his final word. He's like, only white people ask me if Mookie did the right thing because everybody else gets it. And Spike says, and then there was this theory that came out. They were like, well, he did it to save Sal and his son's life by directing the crowd's violence towards the, and Spike Lee says, no, he threw the fucking shit through the window because he just saw one of his best friends get murdered by the New York City police and they were going to get away with it.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's a reaction. All Mookie does in this movie is kind of react to things. He's not that involved as a character. But all of this stuff that we've been talking about, and I really appreciate y'all sharing your experiences and your thoughts on these very complex things. And to me, that's what this movie's about. This movie is about not answering the questions, but causing us to ask the questions and starting a conversation about this. And it's shit that it's 2024 now, and we're still saying we need to start a conversation. Because this movie, we can dissect it. This movie is a microcosm of America, right? And it was in 1989, and it is today. And that's really cool that this film's so timeless, but not for all of the reasons why it's timeless. We all need to do better. So anyway, that's what I think. So now it's time to rate the film. You out there in the chat, out of 5 possible you digs, what do you give Do the Right Thing a Spike Lee joint? Jelani, kick us off here on the panel.
This is an easy 5. I mean, I loved it when I was a kid. I watched it on HBO after that, like several times as a kid. It's one of these touchstone movies. It's one of the things that really you took notice of it in '89. It's one of those things where everyone was talking about it, how controversial Spike Lee was. What were his ties to Islam? You know, is he trying? There were a lot of things going on around Spike Lee that made people watch the movie. The School Days had come out like 87, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I saw some documentary. He had like the Fruits of Islam guys doing security for this film. Like they secured the set for him. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, they did. I mean, and he talked about Minister Farrakhan very, very highly. He spoke of him very highly, and it's just he was such a controversial figure at the time. The people were just like, "Well, we got to go see this movie. We got to see what he's talking about." And then it comes out, and it is a touchstone, man. Yeah, this was a hotbed subject for a long time for a lot of people. They didn't want to show it to people. So it's one of those things that I'm glad never was shelved. I'm glad they were able to give us this lighthearted yet uncomfortable slice of life movie to give us something to think about. It's so salient in what we're trying to accomplish with just race relations. That's it. Just how we can get along with others. I've been saying it this whole time. It's hard to do. I agree with Malcolm more so than I do with Martin. But I was with Martin when I was a kid. But I'm starting to see the Malcolm side. I'm starting to see the self-defense. Because you can't just you can stop things, but I'm not going to own a gun or anything. I just want my people to be protected, but I want everyone to be protected. there should be no line to it. It just should be, we should just be people. And then there are just good people and bad people on both sides. And we deal with them as they come. But we still work together to try to move forward in this world. It's hard out here for a pimp.
Amen,
You know,
brother.
it's rough. So you gotta take everything seriously, but also with a lighthearted tone, and that's what this movie accomplishes. It is the godfather of black cinema, so I give it 5.
Hell yeah, I like that. I hope they put that on the next Blu-ray pressing right there. All of that, what you just said, not just the one quote, like all of it. I just wanted the whole back is just one quote from Jelani. It'd be great. Taki, what about you? Out of 5, you digs? What do you give Do the Right Thing?
5.69. Oh,
Nice.
I can't go above 5.
You can go above 5 for a .69.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And just to piggyback off of what Jelani said, the godfather of black cinema, you know, this was Boys in the Hood was built on this. So many of those classic black menace to society was built on this. I think even if we go Hustle and Flow, which I never really connected the two, but hey, you know what? Probably built on this. You know, and like I said before, it's a masterpiece. And Spike swung for the fences. You know, this is what he had in mind. You could tell he, you know, as he was acting as Mars Black Men and She's Gotta Have It in school. This was what he set out to do, and he hit it out of the park. So,
yeah, well put. Excellent, Brooks. Out of 5, you digs? I'm kind of nervous for you. What do you give this one?
Well, I like this movie, but I don't think it's a perfect movie. I give it a 4.5. Mostly because like a lot of the humor doesn't land with me in this movie. Like, you know, it does have some good funny bits in it, but it has a lot of bits where I'm kind of confused too. So like I feel like I don't get some of the jokes in this movie. But still, like, you know, overall, like it is a very good movie. Like, you know, it's one I definitely would like to revisit. And, you know, my opinion could change. Like maybe like, you know, I'll watch it next time, like, oh, I get it now or something, you know, but for now, like I'd put it at 4.5.
All right, fair enough. My reaction inside though was the reaction when the people on the street found out that dude with the bike was born in Brooklyn.
No, I was just Why don't you go back to Massachusetts? I was born in Brooklyn. Oh.
Well said though, Brooks. Thank you. What about you, Stu? What do you give this movie?
Oh man, easy 5 out of 5. Like Jelani said, easy 5. A classic, man. Like I said earlier, one of the first films, really the first film that showed my white ass the other side of the tracks and really gave me some perspective in life as far as racial relations in America. But yeah, easy 5 for me. It was such a joy to rewatch. I could watch it any day. Like you said, Robbie, even the slow kind of like non-connected parts are just a joy to you know receive and like it's just so funny, man. It was just I found myself laughing so much more than like I know it's such a serious film and has such a serious message and you know heavy themes all day, but God, it's got so many lighthearted moments of levity. It's a great movie.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Manny?
It's a 5. It's definitely a 5. I don't know how it could be anything else. Even just as on a technical level, the film is shot, paced, written. Everything about it technically is fucking flawless. So you have no other choice. And Mookie could have been a little bit more charismatic, but that's, I don't know, Spike Lee's not winning any Oscars for acting.
No, he's not.
But
I was going to say his sister did better than he did.
Yeah, absolutely.
But other than that, it's an important movie, and it's a film that you know, one day I look forward to having a conversation. I'm like I said, I'm a biracial guy with beautiful beige babies and a gorgeous white wife, and some of this shit is shit that needs to be understood and addressed as we navigate each other's cultures and families. And I think that these are the, like Jelani said, touchstone films that are important.
All right, I'm right there with the majority of the panel. I'm giving this a 5. Perfect movie for me. I think it's milestone. It's It's a film. It's one of those films. There's tons of films that are great films, brilliant films, but then there are films that like really change things, really make people take notice. You know, we're talking about stuff like Wizard of Oz, right? And it may be weird to compare Do the Right Thing to like Wizard of Oz, but we've had a lot of Godfather comparisons tonight. You know, I think that's one of those kind of movies. There are movies that come along, just a handful in a generation, in a decade, that really move cinema forward and sometimes even move culture forward if we just would let the art speak and have an impression in our hearts. So a 5 from everybody except for Brooks, who did it a 4.5, and Taki, who did a 5.69. That balances it out for a PCP average of 5. Ya digs.
Hey.
So there you go. Pretty solid movie. If you've never seen Do the Right Thing, I hope you have not been listening to us for the last hour and a half. All right. So kind of what we're doing here on PCP Movie Night, now that we're done with the Police Academy franchise, is I wanted to kind of feature and focus on some of who I thought were some of the greatest filmmakers, right? So tonight we spotlighted Spike Lee. Next week, Martin Scorsese's Casino.
Wow.
We did Goodfellas already, and we did Taxi Driver. So I was like, you know what? Let's do Casino. That one's going to be fun. I was thinking of The Last Temptation of Christ, but I said, let's ease into that one, okay? Do check out Blood Splatter Chatter this upcoming week, though, as part of his Zombie Fest. They're going to be talking about 28 Days Later. Great show. Great movie, I should say. And, of course, Blood Splatter Chatter is a great show. I will not be on that show, but I encourage you to check it out, but also check out the PCP Movie Night we did on 28 Days Later. And then check me out on Dylan's Horror Show. I will be on Dylan's Horror Show on Saturday night to talk about Bubba Hotep, starring Bruce Campbell, Ozzie Davis. That's an interesting connection for the week that ties these two movies together. The Bubba Hotep, Do the Right Thing connected. That's interesting. So yeah, join me there. Those are the movies we'll be talking about here, the PCP Army and all that stuff. Jelani, oh man, Manny, did you send me something for Jelani? Where'd you send it? Where'd you send it?
Gmail.
Okay. Jelani, go ahead and tell us what you want to tell us. Just do it slow.
Okay, well, I was going to talk about Rosie Perez for a moment. We did not discuss how hot Rosie Perez was back in 1989. Well, she's hot now. But,
yeah, she's
my God. Yeah, I love her dancing at the beginning of the movie. It really, I forgot that she did that in this movie. I don't know why. But then when I saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, she did dance. And the whole scene where she's yelling at Mookie at the end the next morning, oh, my God, that outfit. I was going to get her. I was like, that kid needs to leave. That kid needs to go. Because I'm going to get you. You going to get got. She was bad. She was real bad.
You should watch White Men Can't Jump tonight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. She bad in that movie, too. I don't know what it is. Like Puerto Rican girl. Oh, my goodness. Oh, yell at me all day. Anyway, just hopefully you got it. I hope that was enough time. I will say that Brooks and I do the show, and Manny as well, because Manny does our thumbnails, the wild thumbnails he had to pull up. We do Go Figure reviews, and this week we did the Turtles of Grayskull Mouse Jaw figure. Surprisingly, it was a Target. I don't know if it was a Target exclusive, but it's a mashup of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Master of the Universe figures. He is Trapjaw as a Mauser, which I didn't know existed, but they've done this mashup. It is an awesome figure. Brooks and I
with a
both
Mauser too.
He comes with a Mauser as an arm, and he also comes with roboto weapons and claws and stuff. And he's awesome. We love it. You watch the video, you'll see too. And we also did the Black Suit Spider-Man and Carnage 2-pack from the animated series. They're okay. They're all right. They're shameless repaints, but it's good to have them in animated cell shaded form. I would say they're pretty good. But yeah, check those out. That's us.
Yeah.
Check us out.
Everybody go check out and sub up Go Figure Reviews. And also go check out and sub up Taki616. Final thoughts, my man.
Final thoughts on this movie again?
No.
Rosie Perez, D's, double D's, Rosie Perez.
Where can people find you? What you got coming up?
Well, one thing I would say is I don't think we spoiled anything. You need to watch. If you haven't watched this movie, you need to really check it out. This not because of the social messages, but this is a great story. A great film maker doing his thing. And even though you might know some of the things might happen, you haven't seen it happen. And until you see it happen, you won't understand. And understand you won't. That's the truth, Roof. I just do haul videos on my channel. I drop new content every Saturday. I'm going to try to change things up in about a month or so, and hopefully I'll still be able to do weekly content. And this is the appropriate time to show. I know we're not doing show and tell, but the 1 in 10 for number 6.
Nice.
I don't know if there was a better time to show this cover.
Damn, bro.
Nice,
Nice.
dude, that looks good.
That's sick. That is so sick.
Great book too.
Yeah, it's an awesome book.
Hell yeah. Everybody go read Bitter Root. It should be coming back at some point.
Yeah.
Brooks. Thanks for being here, man.
Well, yeah, man.
Final thoughts?
Just fight the powers that be. Station.
All right. Nice. What about you, Stu? Final thoughts. Thank you for being
Final
here, buddy. Why don't
thoughts.
you tell us
Of
everybody
course,
about
man.
yourself, your show, all that kind of stuff. You know
Supreme
what
Clientele returns tomorrow night, 7:00 with my boy Link. Revamped format. I'm excited to get into it. Of course, I'll be on Verno's 28 Days Later, Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. And then I think Fable, forgive me, I forget what time, Blame Fable and His Amazing Friends is going to be on this Friday.
8 p.m.
8 p.m. Thank you, Taki.
New
But yeah.
time, new channel. New state.
Yeah, thank you, Robbie. Thank you for having me. I had a ball with you guys. Just remember, guys, our revolution, our change begins on how we treat one another on an everyday level. So start there and build outwards.
Hell yeah. Manny, always a pleasure. You killed it tonight. Final thoughts?
Yeah, I have a channel right now. We're right in the throes of Batman, and this graphic is much faster than the videos, I promise you. But we just talked about one of Stu's picks, Batman, The Abduction. And if you watch the Police Academy video, you're like, wait, you said like 4 times that book was terrible. It was, but it has some really great underlying themes that I dig deep in that video. So go and check that out. I also released a preview of Blowtorch issue number 2 from Alfred Page just today. So if you want to support a truly indie comic that really harkens back to the glory days of late 80s, early 90s action, you're definitely going to want to check that out. It's a gorgeous book illustrated by Igor Kurulin. And I'm sure that's not how you say his name. And I'm sure he's going to tell me to stop. But I ain't going to stop because I'm about to fight that power. But yeah, I mean, you can check all that out. That's an all right channel to watch Nerdtastic News. But really, go and check out this graphic that's not going anymore. But go check out One Collection Down. He's had a conversation with Legion of Comics, Mark, and I feel like when it comes to the comic book community, you've got like it feels like there's factions sometimes, and that's not a bad thing. That's just how we roll. And I feel like this is one of those videos that truly bridges the gap between stoners like us and investors like them. So yeah, like fucking check it out. It's a dope conversation. Don't
Stoners and investors. That's the divide in the comic.
Sounds like Swaggle to me.
I don't know what the right
Fuck
phrase
them
is,
investors.
man. I don't know what the phrase is. Oh, guys. Well, okay. Pop culture philosophers. We like to talk about story. That's like 90% of what we do. Every one of our channels reviews shit. Like, that's what we do. We love story. We like characters. We like theme. That's a common thread. I would say Legion stuff has a lot of investing content, but mostly collecting and hangout content where they're getting together, they're chatting, and they're talking about recent pickups and stuff like that. We don't do that so much on our end of the coin. So it's cool to see those two different types of. Anyway, fucking go watch the video. It's really good. It's really good.
Nice. We used to kind of do something like that back in the PCP back chat days. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
Back chat. Yeah.
Back chat. I remember.
Maybe
that.
we'll surprise somebody
bold
one day. We'll do a
letters.
back chat or something. I don't know.
Um,
Tonight would have been the night to do it, though, because we're snowed in again. Probably. We'll see what happens. Thank you all so much for checking out the video and making it to the very, very end. You can catch me on Dylan's Horror Show Saturday night as we talk about Bubba Hotep from Don Coscarelli. Yes, that's right. The director of the Phantasm films was the director of Bubba Hotep. I absolutely love that. Do check out Blood Splatter Chatter with 28 Days Later. Check out Go Figure Reviews. Check out all these fine gentlemen here. But be back next week for Martin Scorsese's Casino. We got a loaded panel. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. For my final thoughts, I just say, always do the right thing.